Mario time!
Hey, what's up guys? It's Mitch here, and it's time for us to make a Super Mario game from scratch using Flutter. Now, if you haven't already checked out my Flappy Bird video, I recommend you to take a quick look at that before this one, because I'm going to be using a small element from that code. But to do a quick recap, Flappy Bird was the first game that we made that involved gravity, like jumping up and down in a natural and realistic motion, right? And that's where I introduced a real simple mathematical equation that modeled this sort of motion. Now, when trying to build a game like Mario, if you think about it, it's basically just a platform game. So we want to be able to jump and land, as well as being able to jump onto different platforms. Now, obviously the real Super Mario games have lots of different levels and obstacles, so in this video I hope I can teach you the basic mechanics of the game, and then you guys can build your own games on top of it. Cool, so I've got my coffee ready and let's do this. Okay, so I've opened up a brand new Flutter app, and so this is just the template, and we're going to delete everything below the main function. Oh yeah, I should also mention this is the first game that we're going to code in landscape, which I think is more appropriate, right, for a game like Mario. But yeah, under the main function, let's create a stateless widget, which is called my app. Change this container to a material app, and the first thing I always do is check this banner out. Check this banner to be false. And let's set a home page, and I'm just going to call it homepage. Let's create a stateful widget called homepage, and instead of this container, I'm going to create a scaffold. Okay, so if you run that, we should just get a blank app with nothing on it, and this is where we're going to start. Also, let's keep our files clean, do some file management here. I'm going to create a new file called homepage.dart. Make sure to import the material.dart file and copy our homepage in. Let's come back to the main function here and click on this red homepage and just import it. Now, one really important thing that we should set at the beginning is, since we're going to use this game in landscape mode, then we want to lock it in to be landscape, right? So make sure to import this services.dart file, and in your main, put this in. So system chrome.set preferred orientations and landscape left. Okay, you can choose landscape right, I guess, as well. Doesn't really matter, but yeah, we don't want the screen to rotate. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're just going to start out by building out the main UI for it, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split it into two sections. So in the body of our scaffold, I'm going to use a column, and in the children, we're going to use two expanded widgets. So put a container in there, and let's just give it a color. So first one can be blue, and this one can be brown. So this should just split it evenly. And let's give this first one a flex of 4, and this one a flex of just 1. I think if you don't specify it, it will just automatically be 1 anyway. And yeah, that looks alright. So Mario can just kind of walk around here. And in the brown space, let's put some controls in there. So in the child of this guy, let's put a row. And in the children, we're going to put 3 things. We're going to have 3 containers. So container. Let's give it a color just so that we can see what's going on. Maybe let's give it a light brown or something. So brown, just put one of these and we can control the strength. Let's say 300. And in the child, let's put an icon. Icons, let's search for some arrows. Yeah, arrow back, that'll do for left. Let's just see what's here. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so there it is. Copy it, make 2 more. This one, we're going to look for the up arrow, which might be, let's look through them. I want the, oh, there it is. Upward. And this one, arrow, I think it should just be called forward. Yeah, there you go. Cool, so you can see our little controls there. Under the row, let's specify this function, this feature here, the main axis alignment, and go main axis alignment space evenly. Okay, cool, looking good. Maybe let's also expand these containers. So just click on this and say wrap with a widget and give it an expanded widget. By the way, these expanded widgets you can only put in things like rows and columns where it's got space to fill out. So just wrap this in an expanded widget. Same thing with this. Cool. Now, what we should do is, instead of duplicating all this code, let's make a new file called button. So button.dart, and let's import our material.dart, and it's going to be a stateless widget called my button. Okay, now I'm just going to copy. Actually, let's just copy this. So it's already got a container, so let's replace that container with the one that we made. And which means we can get rid of all this and just say my button. Actually, before we do that, because we have 3 different icons in there, in here we're going to specify a variable. Let's say final, let's call it child, and we have to make a constructor. So my button this.child, so this is whatever we're passing through. And so in this child, instead of just hard coding this icon in, we're just going to put child. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, now we can get rid of these and we can say my button and click on this. Let's import the file that we just made, and then if you look inside of the my button, you should be able to see this child parameter that we just made. And so here we can now put our little icons dot arrow back, and just make a couple of these. This was upward, and this was forward. Okay, good. So you can see like cleans up our code a ton. Also, just to make this look a little nicer, I'm gonna wrap this in something called clip rrect, which just means clip round rectangle. We can specify the border radius. Border radius, I think it's this one's circular. Let's give it a radius of say 15. And basically what this does is it makes the buttons like rounder. Let's make these just a little bigger. So in the container, I'm gonna go padding edge insets all, give it a padding of say, I don't know, 10. Okay, looks a bit better. And last thing is I'm just gonna change the child, like these icons, to white. Doesn't really matter, but I like some good aesthetics. So color, white. Keeps getting rid of these brackets. Okay, copy this. Color is all white. Okay, so these are our buttons. Now, that's basically the UI for it. Okay, now let's bring in our Mario character. So over here, I've got a folder of images. And I've got these 4 images that we're going to use. We have standing Mario, and then we're also going to make it kind of move around. So like a running version, we have this mushroom and a jumping Mario. I got these on the internet, so you guys can just go look for whatever characters that you desire. But if you download the code from my website, then you'll be able to find this images folder. Okay, so I'm going to put this in the library. And let's come back over here. We're going to need to go to the pubspec YAML and tell the app that we've imported some assets in. And to import a whole file, we can just say library images and just end with the dash. And it will just collect all the images inside. And just save it, so it's going to import it. Now, let's come back over here. We are going to make a new file. Let's call it mario.dart. Put in the material.dart. Let's create a stateless widget called myMario. And inside this container, we're going to have a child, which is the image asset. And for us, it's located in, make sure it's a string that you're inputting. It's library, images, and what did I call it? Standing Mario. Standing Mario.png. Whoops. And in this container, let's give it a width of 25 and a height of 25. And then we can come over here and say, okay, child container. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to use an animated container because we want to later move our Mario around, right? So we're going to use an animated container for that. It's going to require us to put in a duration for like the animation in the movement. For us, we're just going to use 0. And the child is going to be my Mario. Whoops. Let's click here, import it. And also, we should specify an alignment. So, alignment. Now, if you go 0, 0, like it's like a X and Y coordinate. If it's 0, 0, it should just be in the middle. Yep, so there it is. Now that looks tiny. So let's make this like 30. You know what? Let's say 50. Alright, that's good. Now 0, 0 is in the middle of this blue container. And -1, -1 is here. And +1, +1 is here. Okay, so you can kind of use that to specify. We're going to be using these coordinates a lot. So I want it on the ground, right? So that's going to be +1 for a y-axis. Like that. Cool. And just while we're dealing with this guy, I'm gonna make some variables called so it's going to be a type of double, which is just a number. We're going to call Mario X and Mario Y. Oh, and later we're just going to control those variables. Okay, so instead of hard coding the numbers in, let's change it into a variable like this. And just to illustrate again, if I just go like -1, so -1 is here, 0 is here, and +1 is there on the x-axis. Yeah, like that. Okay, but we'll just have it in the middle for now. Okay, now let's try to make it so that if I click this button, Mario is going to jump up and down. Now this is the part of the code where I'm going to reuse something that I made in the Flappy Bird video. So if you want to know a bit more in depth about it, then you can check that out. But let's create a function called jump. And in the jump, what we're going to do is we're going to use a timer dot periodic. For the timer, you're going to need to import this one here, the asynchronous from the Dart, and the duration, which is how often do you want this timer to repeat. I want to say 50 milliseconds for now. And let's close this. And okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have to specify a couple things. So we need a time variable, we need a height variable, and I think we need something else. We also need an initial height, which is just going to be Mario Y. We're gonna have to put static on these guys. Static just means that you can access, the whole class can access it. So yeah, it wasn't initialized before when it first starts up. So just put static there. And in the timer, we're going to have the time in our equation increment every 0.05, and this is the equation of the height that I was referring to. So this is like a basic quadratic equation that incorporates like a gravity in there. Okay, so +5 times, so this is the exact same equation that I used in Flappy Bird, and it seemed to be a very nice natural looking motion. Okay, like I said, if you want to know a lot more about how I came up with this, I explained it in a lot of detail in that Flappy Bird video, so please check that out. But otherwise, I'm just going to use this. And what I also need is a void pre-jump method, which basically just which resets this to 0 and the initial height to Mario Y. And every time the jump is clicked, let's reset the time. Okay, so yeah, for the height, over time, right, we're going to increment by 0.05. So it's just going to, the time is just going to keep increasing, right? Now, every time I hit jump, the time is just going to go back to 0. So let's see what this looks like in motion. So I'm going to have to make these buttons gesture detector. right? So just wrap this in a widget, and let's say gesture detector. And on tap, we want to pass through some function. Okay, so let's create that variable up here. So final function, whoops. And also add the constructor function here. And so now we can pass through not only the child, which was these icons, we can also pass through our function. So what that means is, if I go back to the home page, where's our buttons? Yep, so here. Let's put some commas on the end of these guys. Where's the child? Okay, so we can say now function. And actually, we don't want to put a function there. We want to put it for the jumping one. So function jump. Whoops, sorry. Oh, actually, this is a void, so you don't need the bracket there. Okay, so every time I click this, the jump is going to execute. And let's just see what that looks like. I actually didn't specify the Mario Y. So Mario Y currently is 1. And so I want that to change, right? So currently this height equation is going to do that for me. So I'm going to have to say Mario Y is equal to initial height minus height. I think that's the one. Okay, let's see how this works. Oh, and actually last thing, we actually have to put this in a set state. So in Flutter, we have to, because it's all about stateful widgets, and basically that means set state means we're going to rebuild this widget with our new values. Okay, so hopefully this works. Let's see what happens. Okay, cool. You can see, so you can see the way it jumped up, right? It wasn't just up and down in a linear way. This equation, that's what the importance of this equation is. Especially for Flappy Bird and Mario, you want the jump to be natural. So a quadratic equation is what makes that happen. Now, one problem is it jumped up and then it went off the screen, right? So we're gonna have to sort of catch it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have some conditions here and say if the initial height minus the height is greater than 1. 1 is the ground, so anything greater is going to be below the ground. So if that ever happens, then just set Mario Y to be 1. Else, put this guy in. And this also needs to be in a set state. Okay, so hopefully when it jumps up and down, it's just going to catch it. Good. So you can see like it's going to jump up and down and it's just going to catch it there. Okay, good. Now that's so far so good. Now let's use these left and right arrows. So I'm going to go over here and say void move right. And for move right, let's say if you click this, which now we can put in our icons down here, let's make a move right and a move left. So we can put those in our functions now, right? So under the child in the function, this one is going to be a move left since we're going left. And for this one, we're going to move right. Okay. Now, how are we going to move right? Now, the moving left and right is pretty easy. Anytime we click it, so we're going to just set state. And we're going to change the x-axis, right? So Mario x, if you're moving right, then we're actually going to have to minus it because -1 is here, +1 is over there. And let's see, like, move 0.02. And over here, let's just plus 0.02. Let's see how that looks. Okay. Oh, wait, actually, why are we going the opposite way? Let's change these values, plus and minus. Yep, that works. I'm confused. Why plussing? So 0 is there, -1 is there. Oh wait, I'm an idiot. What am I talking about? That's right. Move left, we're going negative. Move right is positive. That's right. But yeah, so now we have a moving Mario. Now, obviously, you can see, like, it's moving, but it doesn't look very natural because the character is just staying still, right? So at least we have the basic mechanics so far. So that's where this one comes into play, right? This, where are you? Running Mario. So it's like I want to kind of alternate between these two pictures every time I move. Okay, so let's implement that one now. Okay, now the first thing I want to do is just some easy bits first. Now, when we're moving left, let's just flip this guy around so at least he's facing the same direction. So come over to the Mario. Let's add another parameter here. So, well, the first parameter here, and it's going to call it direction. So depending on the direction, let's go create a constructor, this.direction. And we have this. So let's say if direction is equal to right, then, oh wait, sorry. Let's get rid of this. Let's go back and just take the whole thing. I'm just going to grab this whole guy here and say if direction is equal to right, then return that. Else, it'll be left, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to return the same thing, but we're going to wrap this container in another widget called transform. And in the transform, we can, first of all, let's just make the alignment in the center. And this is the main bit here. So transform, it's called matrix 4, and we're going to rotate it around the y-axis. And we want to turn it around, right? So 180 degrees, which is just pi. Probably going to have to import this guy. I think I have to just import the math. There is math there. Okay, so we have to pass through this direction. So let's come back over here. And when we make our Mario, let's say string direction is equal to right for the beginning. And where is it? If you're moving right, then direction is equal to, just set it to be right, which it is default. Whoops, sorry. And then for the left, direction is equal to left. So anytime the left button is hit, we're going to just change the direction to be left. And if it's right, then we're going to change it to right. And then when we make our Mario, we're going to pass through that direction. which we called it direction. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. So every time we click it, we're going to change these variables around. We're going to pass it through here, and then it's going to collect that variable direction here, and then it's going to check, okay, if it's right, then we're going to face the normal direction. If it's left, then transform it around. Okay, let's see if that worked. So let's jump around. Okay, so yep, there we go. So you can see like, oh, at least we're now facing the same direction. Sweet. Okay, now let's make this a bit more realistic, and let's make this guy look like he's running. Okay, so now we're going to use, we're going to flick between these ones. So one of them is standing Mario, which is currently that one, and the other one is running Mario, which is kind of mid-run. Okay, so we want to flick between these two. So if we come back to our Mario, let's create a new variable. So final, let's call it mid-run. Create the constructor for it, mid-run, and when we make it in our home page, I'm going to set this to be a boolean, which just basically means it's either a true or false. And so depending on that value, we can change, let's get rid of this, we can change the picture. So let's say copy this and say mid-run question mark. If it's true, then it's just the same picture. Put a colon and just copy the picture in, and instead of standing, we're gonna put running, which is what I think I called it. Yeah, running Mario. So let's copy this and put it in, oh my god, put it in here. And come back to our home page, and now we can create a variable. So like I said, it's gonna be a boolean, which just means true or false. So mid-run, and set it to be false for now, because we just want it to be standing if it's still. And when do we want this to flicker on and off? So anytime we're moving, right? So if we're moving left or right, let's say mid-run equals to not mid-run. Basically, whatever mid-run is right now, take the opposite of it, and that's going to be the new mid-run. Okay, and if you go down to the Mario, so since we created the parameter, it should be the mid-run is equal to mid-run. Okay, so we can pass through our mid-runs that's kind of flicking between true and false, which then it's going to come here and then grab that mid-run, and then it's going to check, okay, well, are you true or false? If you're true, then let's go that guy. If you're false, then show that picture. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so yeah, there we go. So you can see like it's moving and it's kind of walking, right? Now I think over here, I think I forgot to cancel the timer. Yeah, so you see like every time we hit jump, it starts a timer off, and every time we click it, it starts a new timer. So you can see it's going really fast up and down because it's creating a new timer each time. So what you want to do is you want to cancel the timer at some point. So when it lands back on the ground, which is here, you want to say timer dot cancel, and let's just save that. That's really important. So that, yeah, that's why it was going so crazy fast. Yeah, you just want it to be jumping up and down the same speed. Okay, perfect. Which just naturally brings us to the next part. So now that we can walk, we want to make this jumping a bit more natural, so no one ever just jumps without moving at all, which brings us to our last picture here. So the jumping motion. So this one, we're going to need another boolean. I'm going to call it mid jump and give it to be false. Now I could try to use the mid jump and put it all in here, but it's getting quite messy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just create a new folder, a new file, and I'm going to call it jumping Mario .dart. Okay, so import your material, stateless widget, call it jumping Mario. And in the child, image.asset, it's going to be library images jumping Mario .png. And the size, the width is, we set it to be a fixed height and width of 50. Okay, so now that we have that, let's go to our home page. And let's say, where is Mario? Okay, so in this Mario here, we're going to say, copy this. Depending on mid jump, so mid jump question mark. If you're true, then just return this Mario. If not, return the same Mario, but we're going to transform this. Oh, actually, we don't even need to do that. Sorry. If your mid jump is true, then we're not returning Mario, we're returning jumping Mario, which we need to import. And lastly, we have to be able to change these values, right? So mid jump is just going to start off to be false, of course, because you're just on the floor. But if you jump, then mid jump, let's set this to be true. And when you land, which is over here, let's say mid jump is false. Cool. I don't even think you need to put that in there. Let's just put it outside. And I don't think it matters. I'm going to put it below there. Okay, so hopefully when this guy jumps up, it looks like he's going to jump. Hey, got him. Okay, so now that we're walking, and now we're jumping as well. Perfect. Now, one problem with our jump function right now is when you click on it, you can see that the direction is not really translating to our jump, right? So yeah, if we're facing left, we want to jump and we want the direction to continue to face left, right? So let's come back to our code. Now we had the jumping Mario in a separate file. So in the class, let's make a final direction. So kind of same as we did for the Mario.dart file. Okay, we're going to pass through the direction. Okay, so let's create that variable. And also we need to create a constructor for it. So jumping Mario, and then we're going to say this.direction. Okay, so that when we create this in the home page, we can pass it through. Okay, so now depending on the direction, so if direction equals to say right, then let's just put in the normal image, what we had before. Else it's going to be facing left, right? So just put in the same thing, but we're going to use the transform widget to just make it shift across to the opposite direction. Okay, so very, very similar to what we did in the Mario.dart file. First thing, let's just change our alignment to be in the center. And the main thing is this transform right here that we need to fill out. Okay, so we're going to use something called matrix 4. And we're going to, what did we do before? Was it the y-axis? Yeah, so rotation y. And since we're just reversing it, we're going to need to make it 180 degree reverse. So put in pi, and we'll have to import the math as well. And yeah, I think that's what we did there. Cool, so come back to our home page, and we're going to need to pass this through when we create the jumping Mario. Okay, so inside here, we should now have a new parameter. So direction, yep, we can see it there. And just pass through direction. Okay, so yeah, very similar to how we did the My Mario. Okay, now let's save this, and hopefully it's going to continue to face the same direction. So it works with the right one. If we face left, then it's jumping and it's still facing the left direction. Awesome, cool, so that's what we want. Now, one other slight problem we have is right now we have to continuously tap the right and left arrows to be able to move our character around. Now, one thing with that is it's not really realistic. When you play the game, you want to be able to just hold it down. and just kind of continuously move the Mario to the right as we hold it down, right? But you can see like every time I click and hold it down, it just takes it as one tap. And so that's what this on tap is actually looking for. It's just looking for a singular tap, no matter how long you hold it down for. Now let's just get rid of this one. There's actually a lot of other tap methods here. So you can see like in your gesture detector, there's the on tap down. So let's put details. And we're going to need to be able to know when the user is holding it down. Okay, so I'm just going to come up here, make a boolean, and let's call it is holding down, or maybe just holding button down. Okay, and we'll currently set it to be false. And let's just come down here. Let's make a method that's accessible in our homepage. So I'm going to say boolean user is holding button down. And in here, let's just return what the holding button boolean is currently. Okay. So like I said, at the default, when we launch it, it's going to be false. So when we hold it down, so on the on tap down method here, let's say holding button down equals to true. Now we have to do this one as well. So on tap up. So this is when the user has released their finger. Okay. So in that case, then let's say holding button is false. Okay. So only when you're tapping it down is true. And then as soon as we release the tap, then it's going to be false. And also when we hold it down, then we'll call the function. Okay, so let's come back to our home page and let's pass this information through. Okay, so let's go to the top. Okay, well, so when we go to the move right function, right now it's only just moving plus 0.02 and minus 0.02 for moving left. We're going to use a timer. Okay, so a periodic timer. So timer.periodic, the duration, let's just make it 50 milliseconds. And just put a semicolon at the end. And inside here, so if the user is holding the button down, which we can kind of check now. So there's the my button.holding button. And so basically we're just going to check. Now, I think if we just come back here, we said it was false at the beginning, and when you're holding it down, it's going to be true. So that's what we're checking here. Okay, so if you are holding it down, hang on, let's put some brackets here. My button dot, there we go. User is holding button down. So now we can just check this boolean and say, okay, well, if it's true, if the user is holding it down, then we're going to trigger the timer, and we're going to just continuously set the state to move right every 50 milliseconds. Okay, so as long as the user is holding it down, just continuously move right. Then we'll also have to later cancel it. Okay, when the user holding button down is false, right? So let's come over here and also just let's put this mid run. Remember how that was the one that changes between the two images? I'm just going to cancel that, put it inside the set state. So that should kind of belong right under every time the Mario moves 0.02. And then else, if the user is holding the button down is false, then let's cancel the timer. Okay, so let's stop moving, essentially. So let's just restart that and see how that behaves. So hopefully if I just hold it down, you can see, yeah, it's just continuously going until I release the button, then the timer is going to cancel. Okay, so it looks like this code is working pretty fine. Now with this, I'm not sure if I need to put that or not. Let's try if I just get rid of that one. Let's see if it still picks it up. If I just singular tap without holding it down. Okay, so it looks like it's working even if I just tap it, and it's also working if we hold it down. Okay, cool. So that's working good. So let's just copy that and let's just put it in our move left as well. And just make sure to change it to minus since we are going left. And that's essentially it for moving left and right. So this is a much more user-friendly thing to implement. And our jumping is working. and we can just move slightly. We can even move as we jump, and that's that. Cool. Now, if you look at the Mario game at the top here, there's usually some text there, like the Mario like life. There's also like kind of the world, like what level you're on, and I think on the right there's like time, like how much time you have left to complete the level. Okay, so let's just fill out the aesthetics of this game. Now, currently in the blue, like the top blue section, it's just one big container. Right now, we want to add some text on top of it without impacting our Mario character. So there's a very nice widget for that, which is called a stack. So let's grab this container that we have, just copy it, and then we're going to create a stack. Now a stack is basically what it sounds like. You're able to stack different widgets on top of each other. So in the children of the stack, let's just put our container back in there. And the way the stack works is the lower you are in the children, the higher it is in terms of like what we can see. So basically, if I just illustrate what I mean by that, let's just put some text here to illustrate. So I'm just going to put some text, let's say just Mario, and hopefully it shows up. Yeah, so you can see on the top left there, there's a little Mario. But if I grab this, and instead of putting it below the container, I put it above the container, then it's going to show the container first, and then Mario's not going to be able to see it. Okay, so like I said, the lower you are in the stack, the more visible it is, I guess, the closer you are to the surface, if that makes sense. Okay, so that means let's get rid of this text at the top. We want to put it towards the bottom. Okay, and yeah, okay, so let's put some text here. Okay, so I'm gonna use a row because I'm gonna put a lot of different text in there. So row, and then in the children, let's put Mario. And for now, let's just put some dummy text in. Let's say like 0000. And actually, I should put these two in a column because I want them to be on top of each other. And just copy this column, and let's just copy and paste a few of these ones. Okay, in the middle one, let's just call it world. Maybe just say 1 out of 1, and time. Now let's just put some dummy text in for now, 9999. Okay, so let's see how that looks. Okay, sweet. So you can see on the top left, it's called scrunched up, right? So let's spread this out. So go under your row, let's go to the main axis alignment. And we're gonna choose, say, space evenly, which is just gonna spread it out. And yeah, so let's try to make this a bit more aesthetically pleasing. Okay, so maybe, what should we do first? Maybe we can sort of change the font as well as like spread out the this is very scrunched up at the top, right? So I'm going to go to my PubSpec YAML. Now I already chose a font that I want to use that I got from Google Fonts. Okay, and I've been using this font a lot because it's very it's like an arcade feel of a font. Okay, so if you actually go to the Google Fonts website, you can really get whatever font you want, but make sure to put this in your dependency, so the Google Fonts. Now let's say pubget, and let's just see how that turns out. And it looks like we're getting some errors. Now I was getting a lot of errors, and I think it's because I need to put a space under the Google Fonts. Like we need to, yeah, it's very sensitive. You got to put a space in there, and I think that should fix it. So it's just running the pubget, and I think that's good. Okay, sweet. Yes, there we go. And I'm just going to copy and paste the Google font that I found. And let's import now the Google Fonts package, which we just put in the PubSpec YAML. I'm just going to call it game font. And it's basically a text style. Okay, but you got to wrap it around that Google Fonts. Okay, and the name of the font that I chose is called Press Start 2P. Okay, and that's the one that kind of looks like an arcade one. All right, so made it white, and I just made the font size a little bigger. Cool, so let's come back down to our text and just say style. And in the style, instead of putting another text style in there, we're going to use game font. Okay, so let's just copy this and put it in each of your texts. And save this, and let's run. Okay, I'm gonna have to rerun the app, so that might take just a bit of time. Now, while that's running, you can see it's very close to the top, right? So let's give it a bit of space. So let's just wrap it in some padding. And we just want to have it only to the top. So have a padding at the top of around, say, 10. And also you can see that in between the words and the numbers, I want some space. So let's put a sized box of height, again, just say 10. And just copy that and just give some space between each of the texts. So hopefully that looks a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. Okay, so now that the app's rebuilt, you can see at the top, like it looks a lot more like a game. I use this font a lot. It's like a very arcade style of font there. So now one thing you've noticed is when you jump, if you actually double jump, it just doesn't, and you can just kind of jump as much as you want, right? So I want to sort of disable that. And so let's just come up here to our jump method. And what we're going to do is we're going to put in a condition. So we actually have the mid jump like boolean, right? So let's just copy this. And let's say if mid jump is true, if mid jump is false, so if you're not jumping, then we are allowed to jump. And that's the only condition in which we want to jump. Okay, if like we can only jump if we're not already jumping, basically. I'm going to put some comment on here just so that we can remember. So this first if statement is for disabling the double jump or like multiple jumps. So yeah, you can see even if I click during the jump, it's not going to do a double jump. So it only is going to be able to jump when you're on the ground. Okay, cool. Let's add a little mushroom over here. So if you go to the pictures, I'm going to use this mushroom. And so let's create a new file called mushroom or shrooms, shrooms.dart. And similarly to how we made the Mario files, let's make a stateless widget, and I'm going to call it my shrooms, or my shroom, I guess. And inside the container, in the child, we're going to use the same thing, right? So image.asset. And put it in the string. So where is it located? So for us, it's located at library. So lib/images/ what did I call it? mushroom.png. And we should specify a size for it, so the height and the width. So for now, let's give it a fixed height of, say, I don't know, 35. Same thing for the width, 35. And let's make it appear on our page. So let's go back to that stack, and we want to put it toward the bottom, right, so that we can see it. So let's go, I guess we could put it anywhere below here. So we had the text there, so below, or we could actually put it in the middle. Just make sure it's below the blue container though. So let's say my shrooms. Now we're gonna have to import this. It's not there. What did I call it? My shroom. Yeah, get rid of the S. And then we can import that. Let's save this, and yeah, there's no real parameters I put in there. So we might have to wrap this in a container so that we can specify the position of this. Okay, so say container child mushroom, and then the alignment property. We're going to specify the X and Y axis. So say if it's on the ground, right, the Y axis is going to be 1. And the X axis is, I guess, what we could control. And if we have it at 0, it's going to be in the middle. So say like 0.5, that's going to be like towards the right hand side. So let's just test that out, see if it appears. And cool, there's our cute little shroom. Now, we don't want to hard code it, right? So let's put it at the top and say similar to the Mario X and Mario Y. Let's say, okay, let's call it shroom X and shroom Y. Okay, cool. And then let's just go back to our container, and then instead of hard coding it in, just say shroom X and shroom Y. So that's going to be pretty useful for us to put it in a variable so that we can actually eat the mushroom, right? So when the Mario goes towards the mushroom, and basically if the X values are the same and the Y values are the same, that means you're basically at the same location. So that's when we're going to eat the mushroom. Okay, so we're going to have to create a new method for this. So let's just come over here to the top and let's create a void. What should we call this? Like check mushroom or shroom, like 8 shrooms, something like this. And let's do an if statement. Okay, we're going to check if they're at the same location. Now, when you do this, by the way, we could basically just say if Mario X is the same as shroom X, then you're at the same location, right? But one problem that this poses is just depending on how we set these numbers. Starting at 0.5, when we move right, we're moving every 0.2, like 0.02, right? So, you know, you gotta be careful because sometimes the numbers might not exactly be equal to each other. I think in this case, it will hit it. Like if you're moving 0.02, if you add that enough times, you will land at 0.5 at some point. But a more safe thing to do is instead of saying, okay, when they're equal to each other, I'm gonna say if we subtract the two values and we take the absolute value of them, just meaning the positive value, and we're just going to check if the difference is small enough, right? So I'm going to say, okay, if it's like smaller than 0.0, say 5. Okay, now just depending on Mario X and the shroom X, one might be bigger than the other. So I'm going to take the absolute value because I'm just interested in the distance. And then we're just going to check like a small margin of difference. Okay, if you're smaller than 0.05, then I'll just say, okay, you're basically at the same location. Okay, now, like I said before, you can check if it's equal to 0. That's basically meaning that they're at the same location. But sometimes this may not work. Like I said, just depending on how you code the numbers, it might not actually land at the exact same number. Okay, so we're just going to check, okay, if you're less than a distance of 0.05, then you're basically at the same place. I should actually change this to shroom X. Sorry, that was a mistake. So we're basically checking, okay, the X is the same, and we also got to check the Y is the same because we might be able to jump over the mushroom, right? So just copy this and say Mario Y minus shroom Y, and that's also the difference is smaller than 0.05. Okay, so basically if you're at the same location, then we've basically eaten the mushroom. So what should we do when we eat the mushroom? I think in the actual game, it becomes like Super Saiyan mode, right? Like it kind of, the Mario kind of becomes large. So if we come back to our Mario file, we fixed the height to be 50, like the width and the height. But when I eat the mushroom, I want to be able to change the size of our Mario. So let's create a variable up here and say size. Okay, and then whatever size we pass through is going to be the size of our Mario. which means we can access the size, or we can pass this information through from our homepage. Let's create a new variable, so double Mario size, and 50 was just the default size, right? 50 is what it is currently. But when we eat the mushroom though, we want to increase this. So we also have to pass the size through to our Mario. And over here, so yeah, we're going to say Mario size equals to, let's just like double it, say 100. Okay, so if you've eaten the mushroom, then the Mario size is going to get bigger. Make sure we have to actually set state that one. Okay, let's test this out. Let's eat the mushroom. Okay, and hopefully our Mario is going to double in size. Oh, my computer's lagging a bit. All right, so if I eat it and it's not working. Why? Yeah, so the reason why it's not working is because we have this nice method called 8 shrooms, but we didn't actually call it, right? We just made the method and we didn't really access it. I'm just actually going to change the name. Let's call it check if 8 shrooms. I think that's more accurate of a description. So where should we call this method? Well, if you go move right, so every time we're moving right, we're going to check this method. Okay, we might actually have to put it in the timer. And same thing for the move left. Let's just put it at the beginning, and also just every time the timer gets called, and we're iterating every 50 milliseconds. All right, fingers crossed. Hopefully this time it's gonna work. Let's go through the mushroom, and there we go. Our Mario is now huge. Now, one thing is we actually want to get the shrooms to go away, right? Once you've eaten it. So grab this X, the shroom X, and let's just make it equal to 2. So remember how it's between -1 and 1 on the screen. So if it's 2, then it's going to be off the screen. Let's make a little note here. So if eaten, move the shroom off the screen, basically. Okay, let's test this, and hopefully this time the shroom is gonna move away. Cool, so yeah, there we go. So it gives this effect of like, all right, you ate the shrooms. Now, one thing is, okay, so there's a little thing going on there. Like when you jump, it's still the same size. So we're gonna change these sizes, right? In the jumping Mario, we fixed it to be 50. So let's create a variable called size, just as we did in the Mario file. Okay, and then that the size that we passed through, which I think we called Mario size, right, in the home page. Yep, let's pass that through when we create our jumping Mario. So just scroll down, and this one here. So size is Mario size. All right, let's test this. So hopefully when we jump as well, the Mario remains large. And yes, sweet, there we go. It's working perfectly. I think we have one other issue, which we might have to solve later on, but when you hold it down and then we release it, it stops. But if you drag your mouse off and then you release it, then it doesn't count it as us releasing it. So we have to always be on the button. So we're gonna have to actually work around that issue as well later on. Another thing is, it looks like the Mario is just going off the screen, right? So if you go to the move right function, let's put another condition in. So you're going to move right when you're holding down the right button, and also just make sure that Mario X plus 0.02, so basically the position you're trying to go to if you move right, just make sure that that is less than 1. Okay, so between -1 and 1 is what we want the values on. So same thing on the move left, just check. All right, Mario X, and then if we subtract 0.02, so the place that we're trying to move left, just make sure that that is greater than -1. Okay, and let's check this, and hopefully we now don't just fly off the screen. Okay, good, there you go. And let's just check the other side as well. You're gonna stop there. Perfect. Now, if you guys have been watching up until this point in the video, then I commend you guys. The last thing in this game that I can show you is this little platform, this little question mark box where you can kind of jump onto it and you can move around on this box. So with this code, you can actually create, I guess, however many boxes and platforms that you want, right? And create whatever level or map that you can think of. And another thing I added is if you look at the actual Mario game, if you jump on to if you jump under the question mark box, it produces some items like coins and stuff. So I added a similar feature for that as well. And yeah, like with these few game mechanics, hopefully it gives you enough of a direction or inspiration to create whatever game that you desire. Not just Mario, but like any platform game, right? But yeah, like the code for the platform, I'm gonna just put up on my Patreon. So if you like the style of coding that you've seen so far, then check me out on Patreon. Also, if you're a Patreon supporter, then you can have access to not just this code, but all of my code for free. I've tried to put in as much comments as I can, so it's kind of easier to read and understand the different methods. So I'm just going to leave it at that for this video, and thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.